and the Premier League Manager of the season. I have to say, I think I agree with Jamie. I don't think it's a disgrace or anything like that.
No.
I wouldn't use that language, because Klopp managed to close that gap from where they were ahead of them. Man City were how many points? I think it was double figures at one point, wasn't it, ahead of them?
Was it 13?
So they managed to close that gap and get them right down to the last day of the season. However, Manchester City were the ones that still held on and did it. So for me, if it was anyone, I think it would be Pep. I'd even go so far as to maybe look at some of the other managers as well 100%. In there and look at what Eddie's done when he came in, and they were pretty much, I think maybe they'd won one game, no games at home or something like that. I
think
and he turned it around for them, didn't he?
Even for me, David Moyes, as well, for the job he's done at West Ham. They've been in the Europa League, went far in that to semi-finals, got European football in 7th place again for next season. So for me, whoever wins the Premier League deserves to be Premier League Manager of the season. So I agree with Jamie. It's not a shocking decision, but it's the wrong decision. Pep Guardiola must be thinking, I've won the Premier League 4 out of 5 seasons, winning it again this season. Yes, Liverpool were right behind them, but he deserves to get that award. And it's really strange that Klopp did get it. And like he says, Eddie Howe and David Moyes could have been in if you wanted to give it to a manager that's done very well with what they've been working with.
You also, with these awards, could look at the likes of Thomas Frank, because at one stage, at the beginning of the season, I always remember that first game of the season I went, and it was Brentford against Arsenal, and they beat Arsenal comprehensively. It was brilliant, and it was an amazing atmosphere there as well. I actually loved that day, despite the fact that my team got beat. He finished 13th with Brentford in the end. That's for a newly promoted side, not just any newly promoted side, one who have never been in the Premier League before. I really like the method of how they bring players in, how they sell players, the old Moneyball kind of constructs, if that's how you want to explain it. I think that Thomas Frank, as a personality as well, is a very interesting and likeable guy. That doesn't win you awards alone, but one of these days, might we see someone like that win Premier League Manager of the season?
I think we should do. And a shout out as well to Graham Potter, because whenever I watched Brighton play, they play one of the most entertaining styles of football in the Premier League. So organised.
Took points off big teams as well.
Beating big teams. West Ham needed a win for 6th place, but they couldn't. Brighton beat them on the last game of the season. So I think with more of a budget and more clinical strikers, Brighton could be one of the teams next season that do better. So definitely Thomas Frank, Graham Potter, David Moyes, for what they're doing in the Premier League, deserve to be in with a shout. But I just don't understand how Pep can win the Premier League and not get Premier League Manager of the season. Doesn't sit right with me.
Mark says, which team has ever completed every single fixture possible in a season?
That's not Premier League,
it's
though.
Premier League,
for an award all round, I'd give it to Klopp. But for the Premier League award, it has to be whoever won the Premier League.
The LMA, just to explain to you the difference between the two, the LMA award, which he also won, is for all divisions, isn't it? And so you will take into account everything else that happens. So I totally agree. Hey, look, we're not trying to take anything away from Klopp. He is an incredible manager, and they've provided between them, Manchester City and Liverpool, one of the most exciting title races we've seen.
Pep did say everyone wants Liverpool to win. So what? He'll stick to that now, won't he, after not winning this award?
Well, does that in a way strengthen that argument?
I think it does, and I think who's making these decisions? Even Kevin De Bruyne had an amazing season, but I just can't get my head around how Son, I don't know if it's because he's at Spurs and they haven't won anything, he's just forgotten about. But to get the same amount of goals as Salah in the team that has less chances, he deserves to be up there. No penalties as well. Yes, Salah's got more assists, but what Son's done this season, some of his goals have been outrageous. Goals that the likes of other strikers in the Premier League can't score. Screamers, left foot, right foot.
We'll talk about this more later in the show. I'm really interested to see what our listeners think this morning.
Yeah.
Newcastle were the only team in the Premier League to have not won a game when Eddie took over. They were 19th place. That's from Sam, who's a Newcastle fan. I guess he's saying, maybe in agreement with what we were saying earlier on, would you look at someone like Eddie Howe? Bruno Lage as well, for Wolves. Individually, there's been some really standout moments from managers in the Premier League this season that have made achievements that we didn't think were possible. So, it's something to be looked at, isn't it? But I'm with you on this, Gabby, and I don't like to go against Jurgen because I think he's an amazing manager.
It's like AC Milan winning the Scudetto, and you give it to Inzaghi into Milan, the award. Because Inter comes second. It doesn't make sense. If you win the Premier League, you are the Premier League manager of the season, and then there's tweets there saying maybe an overachievers or a shock of the season or most improved manager. Maybe that'll be Eddie Howe. Graham Potter, Thomas Frank, a different award for one of them. But I think Pep will stick to the everyone wants Liverpool to win sort of talk now. It's
not going to do any favours for that rhetoric, is it, really?
No, very strange, though.
So he obviously won the LMA Manager of the Year as well.
Yeah.
If he goes on and wins the Champions League, I mean, I can totally understand that. And I do understand it already to many degrees because like Mark just said, they've played in every game that was even possible to them. They've been challenging on all four fronts, and they've done it in style as well. They've played some incredible football. They've got players in their team with 15 goals or more, like 3 or 4 players in their team that are scoring those goals, which is a lot of goals in one team. But for the manager for the Premier League,
separate awards, aren't they? It's a no-brainer. He wins the other award, but the Premier League one he has to get. And even when I'm talking about Son, Laura, I can't believe that no one big club has come in for Son. We talk about Salah might leave because he can't agree his contract. Mane might leave to Bayern Munich. But for me, Son's better than both of them. I would, if I'm a big club, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, I'd be looking to try and sign Son. He's unbelievable. So underrated.
James has messaged in and said, I agree that the winning manager should get the Manager of the Year. But if that's the case, why bother having an award ceremony for a sure thing? That's just so they can have a drink, James. They want to have a party. It's meant to be a celebration. I think you mean the surprise thing. But that's the thing. Sometimes it can be the idea of achieving more than you were expected to that could win you something.
Exactly. Say, for instance, if a team that you didn't think had any chance of finishing in the top six, does that manager deserve an award? Of course.
Lots more messages coming through. We'll try and get to them. Why bother voting? This one's from Joe. In your eyes, only the league-winning manager deserves to get it. No, Joe, that's not what he's saying, actually. He's saying in comparison between first and second, really it should go to the manager that's won the league because he's achieved what he set out to achieve. And it doesn't... I'm saying as well, I'm with you, Gabby, if it didn't go to the person that won the league, and it goes to the person that's achieved more than it was expected or really overachieved. If you look a little bit further down, which is why we were mentioning the likes of Thomas Frank and Eddie Howe, that's what we're saying.
And Eddie Howe's done unbelievable as well because he's turned St James's Park into a fortress. Next season, teams aren't going to want to go to St James's Park, Laura. That's going to be the game where you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a night game under the lights, you're like, oh, we have to go there.
And those new players that are playing at St James's Park now and have bedded themselves in, I just think, wow, they are loving that atmosphere so much. It must give them such a drive when you go out into that pitch.
100%. And when you've got that atmosphere with the fans behind you, it gives you that, that bit more as a player, and they showed that against Arsenal, didn't they? Arsenal couldn't get 3 passes together. It was like they were thinking, where are we? This atmosphere got hold of him. So Newcastle will be definitely a team to watch next season.
Okay, 03717 22 3344. We want your thoughts on this. Did Klopp deserve to be named Manager of the Year across all the divisions? And what about the Premier League Manager? This was the LMA Awards last night that we're talking about.
talkSPORT Breakfast with Laura Woods. Monday to Wednesday mornings 6 till 10. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.